I arrived in Kenya days before the August 22 general elections. What I witnessed was nothing short of remarkable. Kenya held what many analysts and commentators say was the freest, fairest, and most credible election in Kenyan history. The elections were observed by international and local election organizations, and the results were upheld by the Kenyan Supreme Court, and power was transferred orderly and peacefully at the time.
Finally, you want to tell a rogue ambassador, leave Kenyans alone. If Mandamano can lead to a dialogue between Ichungwa and Kalonzo, everything is good with Mandamano. Tell the rogue ambassador, Kenya is not United States. Kenya is not a colony of the United States. Keep your mouth shut when you hear. Otherwise, you will call for your recall back to your country. I thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you very much. Another round of applause, please, for the former Prime Minister, Right Honorable Raila Odinga. Asante sana.
Hello and what's up, ladies and gentlemen. This is Gichuru. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. In case you're new here, tap that subscribe button, and if you're a returning subscriber, thank you so much for your continued support. Like I said, this is the greatest YouTuber in the Republic of Kenya, and the E in my name stands for exactly what you need. Now, opposition leader of the Republic of Kenya, His Excellency Raila Odinga, has bashed the United States of America Ambassador, Her Excellency Meg Whitman. This came during the devolution conference that is happening at Eldoret, and his comments were preceded by the comments of the U.S. ambassador, who, in her own words, or in her own what do we call these guys? In her own words, I said that the 2022 general election held in Kenya was the freest, fairest, and the best election ever held in Kenya, and I think by extension in Africa.
Let's zoom in on how I'm talking about why Kenya should be everyone's destination in Africa. Kenya is the most stable democracy in Africa. Kenya is the gateway to the East African market of almost 500 million consumers. Kenya is the regional logistics hub. Kenya is the leading regional financial hub. And Kenya, with its Silicon Savannah and super smart engineers, is the region's ICT hub. Kenya is a leading destination for foreign direct investment and venture capital. And Kenya has a young, educated, entrepreneurial, and English-speaking workforce. Kenya generates, as I said, over 93% of its energy from renewable sources, and Kenya's largest export market is the United States. Let me repeat, Kenya's largest export is the United States, and we feel Kenya is ready for liftoff as it diversifies. Let me unpack a couple of these areas. Democracy. I arrived in Kenya days before the August 22 general elections. What I witnessed was nothing short of remarkable. Kenya held what many analysts and commentators say was the freest, fairest, and most credible election in Kenyan history. The elections were observed by international and local election organizations, and the results were upheld by the Kenyan Supreme Court, and power was transferred orderly and peacefully at the time.
Yeah. So her comments are what inspired the comments of Raila Odinga. Because remember, Raila Odinga is still pushing for electoral justice, and he believes that he won the 2022 general election when everyone else does not believe the same, and therefore anybody with a contradicting opinion definitely becomes his enemy. Now, Meg Whitman has been in Kenya for a while right now, and during the devolution conference, she actually praised Kenya so much. She gave a portfolio of Kenya and why Kenya is a good travel and investment destination, and that kind of made Kenya feel special and feel appreciated by the international community. But surprisingly, to some quarters like the opposition, they felt that Meg Whitman was meddling with the internal affairs of Kenya, which is not true. And my take is that if an nonpartisan member of the foreign body in Kenya can see the election to be very fair when they did not influence its outcome, I don't understand why other fellow Kenyans like our opposition have refused to acknowledge the election as the freest and as the fairest election ever held in Kenyan soil. You know, they have completely buried their head in the sand, and they don't want to accept it. They don't want to come to that conclusion, that very vital conclusion, that indeed this election was the fairest. So, according to Raila Odinga, he says that first of all, the ambassador is rogue. Mhm. In fact, he even did refer to her. He actually said, "Tell the rogue ambassador," which is very, very disheartening, considering the kind of support that the United States have accorded Raila Odinga as an opposition leader. In fact, some few months ago, he was there and other places to represent Kenya in his capacity as the opposition leader. And the US has been very, very supportive to him, even going to make speeches during his campaign and things like that. Only for him now to come back here and call the ambassador rogue. At some point, we even are questioning the silence of the international community regarding the police brutality that was meted upon Kenyans who are participating in demonstrations. So if you look at this scenario, they want the international community to talk and intervene when police are meting out police brutality, but they don't want the international community to comment or talk about the election conduct in Kenya. And if they have to talk about the election, they want them to say the election was stolen and their victory was stolen. So if you look at that such kind of a reaction, then it really shows you that this is an opposition that is not bipartisan. I mean, that is not non-partisan. It's an opposition that has no cause, it only supports its own cause, and that it is not concerned about the truth. It is only concerned about people supporting what they do, whether it's right, whether it's wrong, whether they have won, whether they have lost. They just want to be supported. They don't want the truth to actually come out. The former premier actually continued to say that Kenya is not a colony, which is true. Kenya is not a colony anymore. We gained independence very, 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 very 60 years ago, actually. But that doesn't mean the international community cannot intervene in terms of aid, in terms of loans, in terms of even their comments. They have to make their own comments, especially if they are truthful comments, and they are actually welcome to do that. So that is the state of the opposition in Kenya. They are not truthful, guys. I don't believe in what they say, to be honest, because their statements are only limited to people praising them, to people pleasing them. If you say anything contrary to what they believe in, then they actually go for insults and things like that. In fact, Raila Odinga also talked about asking the US to recall the ambassador, if she continues meddling with the affairs of the country. But they are going to ask the United States to actually recall that ambassador in down and have her stripped off the powers of an ambassador to represent the US in Kenya. But the US has been very instrumental in supporting this country, especially through things like food aid, drug aid through the USAID, and the US is one of the most truthful international communities we have. Remember when we had misappropriation of funds, especially meant for malaria? You remember that saga by the KEMSA, I guess, Kenya Medical Supplies Agency. So they actually called out the government then led by CS Mutahi Kagwe, and they actually stopped the aid because of misappropriation of the funds meant for this aid, you see. So it's not, the US does not support government or support the opposition. They give facts and statements as they are, and that is what is supposed to be. They're not inclined towards one direction. They're not inclined towards government. Neither they inclined towards the opposition. They are inclined towards justice, transparency, the will of the people of the Republic of Kenya, and just promoting good governance. And that is what we want. Because even the opposition, they get a lot of support from the US government. They travel to the US. I think Raila has met even the President of the United States. If it was a government that only supports, and one thing about the US, they support good governance. Remember, people like Mike Sonko, former Nairobi governor, they have already been banned from entering the US. Why? Because of corruption allegations. So once they see you're a corrupt politician, you can't even access their country. I think there are some politicians who have already been banned from going to the United States because of their records here in Kenya about corruption, misappropriation of funds, embezzlement of funds. And these are the things that the US is fighting. So it's not fighting an individual. It's not fighting the opposition. It's not fighting people in government. It is fighting poor governance. It is fighting bad morals. It is fighting discrimination. It is fighting any vice in society and leaders who use leadership opportunities, to hide these vices, or to hide under this cocoon, so that they are able to fail to take responsibility for their actions. That is what the US is about. So it was wrong for the former premier to call out the ambassador in such a manner, refer to her as rogue and things like that. It was wrong. Nonetheless, what is said has already been said. I wish to put that to a stop there. Thank you so much, guys, for watching. This has been your guy, Elijah Gichuru. Subscribe, like, comment, share this video with your friends and family so that you can create a big community that can talk about anything and everything. In the meantime, adios and see you in the next one.